can you tell us about the trends that you're seeing in the biotech industry abroad?
In the last decade, we're seeing a major trend, global trend, and as well as domestic trend, which continue increase and of bringing new technologies into the market. We are actually witnessing in quite an extraordinary time that the entire human being is living much longer. As a human being, we doubled our life expectancy only in the last 150 years, which is quite amazing, from an average of 45 to over 80 nowadays. So from one hand, it's great. We live longer, we have a better quality of life, but it also brings a lot of challenges to the society, healthcare system, and eventually to us, all the citizens. And what we're seeing in the last few years, that we're seeing that many regulators all over the world, it started in Japan, in Europe, and eventually in the US, that is promoting young companies or companies with very advanced technologies like Pluristem. They are promoting us to move quickly into the markets with providing a very advanced regulatory pathway. And they are saying very clearly, we would like you to bring your product quickly into the market so we will be able to treat our elderly and patient. And this is something which is very unique and interesting. It also represents a huge opportunity for Israeli companies. As you know, Israel is a company or is a country that has a lot of innovation. We know maybe as a startup nation, but in the coming few years, Israel is going to become the biotech nation. We're seeing more and more biotech companies established in Israel, and I'm looking at this trend as the chairman of the Israeli Advanced Technology Industry, and that's something that I can see it very clearly. We see more biotech companies, more mature activities, more advanced studies, and eventually also in the last years, we see more and more acquisition of Israeli companies, and this is something that will continue. If I'm correct, today there is about 1,400 life science companies in Israel. And I guess that 5% of them at least will become a major players, global players. So this industry should employ thousands of people in Israel, bring new technologies into globally that will enable us to meet the challenge of aging and quality of life.
And in regards to aging, and when one gets older and perhaps has cancer, you get radioactive materials in your body. And can you explain what your company does in regards to radiation around the world? I mean, there was a disaster in Japan a few years ago where there are now high levels of radiation following the Fukushima disaster. So do we see that anywhere else in Europe, in North America?
Yeah, there are many concerns because as time goes by, nuclear reactors are aging. There are a lot of security issues, safety, a lot of concerns from human errors. Chernobyl is not the only accident, it's the most famous and the largest so far in 1986. But as you mentioned, there was Fukushima, and we just recently heard about high levels of radiation detected in France and in other countries all over Europe, with fears that probably something happened somewhere in Russia or nearby, and we don't know exactly what happened. So there is a lot of fear. Countries understand that even if you don't have nuclear reactors, you might be still affected by reactors in other countries. Not long ago, there were fears in Belgium and in France from several terrorist groups trying to sabotage nuclear reactors. So the threat is there, and governments understand that they must be prepared. And being prepared is not only with a lot of logistics and evacuating populations, but also providing medical care. And the currently used medications are simply not enough. These victims will be very complicated patients. They will suffer from reduced blood cells, infections, bleedings, and so on. And the currently used treatments are based on blood products and different other medications which entail quite a lot of side effects. And this is one of the new things we're bringing with us. The Pluristem product, PLX-R18, is based on placenta expanded stem cells, And once you give it to the exposed person, it really enhances, increases his own body blood cells to restore what was damaged and help the whole process of healing without the need to get other supportive care. So when looking at...
Would that help maybe the American embassy staff that were harmed in Cuba? Which, again, we don't know exactly what happened there.
Well, that's a great question. We're not really sure since we don't really know what happened there. And you are right, there are some signs that might be attributed to some kind of radiation, but we don't have the data. Once we have the data and we know that someone was exposed to ionizing radiation, then definitely this would be relevant, even though there is a window to give the drug. But still, once you have this kind of medical countermeasure, you can store it, you can be prepared. In relation to aging, we know that there are a lot of cancer patients. We see more and more evidence that these cells are very much relevant to treat cancer. So it might be even that in the near future, these products will be in every hospital in use by cancer patients. So maybe this notion of having already something at hand while something happens, like a radionuclear catastrophe, might help caregivers in giving the right drug on time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.